Hello, and welcome to the panel discussion on aging of the course of Science and Technology for Humanity. Why on aging? Thanks to the development of medicine, hygiene, food security, and other factors, the overall life expectancy of humankind has rapidly increased during the past decades. In 1965, when Singapore was born, the average life expectancy in the world was 55 years, whereas in 2020, it was already 72 years. In Singapore in 1965, the life expectancy was 67 years, and in 2020, it was 84 years. By 2030, 1 in 4 Singapore residents will be age 65 and above, with a population aging at one of the highest rates globally. This fact can be seen as one of Singapore's major challenges of our time, and Singapore's policymakers are well aware of it. For the same reason, NTU's interdisciplinary collaborative core course entitled Science and Technology for Humanity has chosen aging as one of its 3 major discussion topics, in addition to AI and blockchain. In the former sessions of our course module, we have explored the conundrum of aging from the perspectives of life sciences and humanities, psychology and social sciences, economy and healthcare, and realized the complexity of aging. But this complexity is presenting not only challenges for us, there are possibilities and potentials behind this challenge. The present panel is moderated by myself, Balázs Gulyás, Professor of Translational Neuroscience at the Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine and moderator of the module on aging, together with Albert Tsui, Executive Director of the Singapore Business Federation. Albert.
Thank you, Balázs, for the insightful opening. Hi, everyone. The Singapore Business Federation is delighted to come together with the Nanyang Technological University to talk about the potential of a silvering economy. And we are very privileged to have a very diverse panel today to discuss these very critical issues. As a quick way of introduction, we have with us today Janice Chia, Founder and Managing Director, Aging Asia. Aging Asia has established a strong reputation as an independent business network with a vision to bring together businesses, government, and community leaders in Asia Pacific to address the opportunities for the aging population. We also have Sheila Parakal, Chief Human Resources Officer, Prudential Singapore. Prudential has been a forerunner in progressive employment practices with its diversity and inclusion efforts, including mature employees. Prudential Singapore commissioned a white paper titled Skilled for 100, Leveraging an Older Workforce in Singapore, which explores the work-related challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for Singapore's residents, employers, and government, as all of us live and work for a longer period of time. And back in 2018, Prudential Singapore also removed retirement age and extended the group medical coverage to age 100 for its employees. Last but not least, we have Sarah Tham, Associate Director, DLE M&E. DLE specializes in mechanical and electrical related projects across a broad spectrum of industries, supported by over 300 staff of various age groups. As a IHRP, or Institute for Human Resource Professional, Senior Professional, Sarah herself taps into her very rich HR experience to drive cultural change management within her organization. Happy to say that Sarah is also an NTU alumni. So to help us kick off the discussion, I would like to invite Balázs to give us his views on the key aspects of aging and what are the areas that you think will impact Singapore's demographic challenges in the near to mid-term. Professor, please.
So aging, as we discussed earlier, is a major challenge, but it's also an opportunity. A major challenge because if we are fortunate, and we hope we all are fortunate in this regard, we will reach our elderly age, and hopefully we will reach 80, 90, even 100 years of age. The challenges in this regard are evident. Do we want to age as an elderly person whose cognitive functions are declining, whose bodily functions are declining, whose healthcare costs are going to the heaven? Or do we want to age in grace, gracefully, in health, in good cognitive and physical conditions, and live a long life as a young person? Why a young person? Is it not in contradiction to age and being young in body and mind? In this regard, let me quote the former President of the United States, George W. Bush, who at the funeral ceremony of his father, George Bush Sr., told the following: "Our father told us," there were 5 children, told us children the following: "I want to die young, but as late as possible." It means that yes, you can go on as a young person, both in body and mind, and you can reach an old age in good physical and cognitive conditions. So this is, for me as a medical doctor, the major challenge of aging, to have quality life for as long as possible, with the help of technologies, but also with the help of healthy life-related conscious actions. What are these actions? We have discussed these actions during the former sessions of this panel. Physical activities, cognitive activities, family and social life, stress reduction, healthy diet, and so on. So allow me to ask the panel discussants about their views on how to maintain healthy life from a physical or biological point of view.
Thank you, Balash. Yeah, indeed, this productive longevity requires both a mindset shift and as well as for businesses and of course students and upcoming entrepreneurs to bring to market this diverse and exciting range of products and solutions. Perhaps I can ask the next question to Janice to share with us, what do you think are the core value of a silvering economy in Singapore's context? And to perhaps share with our audience today the areas that will see the most significant growth in the years ahead. Janice.
Great, thank you. Aging is a social and economic opportunity. And the fact is that aging overlaps every sector and every industry. And in Asia in particular, we have these values of filial piety. And how are these values of filial piety transforming with each generation? That involves a mindset shift towards aging. In the past, filial piety, pronounced as 孝心, means that we want to look after our parents. So we have in 3-generation homes, 4-generation homes, and our parents are living with us. However, just because they are living with us doesn't mean they are enjoying the best quality of life. Do we have time to spend with them? Are they engaged in meaningful, purposeful activities? Sometimes, due to our work schedules, we can't spend all the time we want with our loved ones, and everyone has developed very independent life trajectories. In the future, the same pronunciation of 孝 is laughter, 笑 in Mandarin. So how can we enable older people to age with laughter, to be happier, to be more independent as they age, healthier as they age, stronger as they age, and have a more dignified aging journey? So this underlies how we can build up the silver economy. The silver economy by 2025 is projected at $72 billion for Singapore. This bulk of this value comes from the spending power of older people. And of all generations, the baby boomers are the biggest savers. And now they are going through that aging process. How can we as a society create opportunities for them to enjoy that meaningful, healthy aging life? Outside of just healthcare, $72 billion is not all healthcare. $72 billion represents their spending power of a person aged over 60. What they're going to be spending on housing, transportation, tourism, retail services. And of all these areas, housing is always one of the biggest areas. And one of the challenges today is how can we make homes age forever with an older person? So you have the smart homes, age-friendly, barrier-free homes. And then you have to think, just that hardware is not enough. What are the services we can offer for an older person within that 1 kilometer radius of where they live? Do they have a connected community and a second family with the people around that 1 kilometer? Sometimes your neighbor might come to you faster than your child who lives in the next town or the next country. And in times of need, who is there for you? Then you have to think, what are the technologies available that can make an older person lead a healthier life at home and be more independent? Because that's the goal today. Seniors today want to have a more enabled life. In fact, if you ask seniors today, do you want to live with your children? Many will say no. And they want to lead an independent life. They want to have the key to their own life. So I think in looking at this, the silver economy presents a variety of opportunities that involve creativity and innovation, not just looking at traditional products in healthcare, but also expanding the reach. Just think about what makes an older person happier and stronger and healthier as they age.
Thank you, Janice. Yeah, I think that comes out very clearly that the opportunity is really to bring together innovation, enterprise, and the right way to deploy technology as an enabler. And I hear from you very clearly that it is both hardware in terms of infrastructure and the support, but hardware.
Yes.
Yeah, our hearts, because the seniors can live to a joyful and meaningful age, and they can be very meaningfully plugged into society. Yeah, and of course, coming from the Chamber's perspective, we believe that the businesses, the corporates, are a very strong force of change and a force of good. So perhaps I can direct the next question to tap the views of Sarah and Sheila to talk about, in your opinion, what are the ways and strengths of how we have been tapping these mature employees, and how are companies in Singapore faring in terms of leveraging the value of this silvering workforce? Yeah. Maybe Sarah?
First, let me provide a little background on my company. We are a mechanical and electrical engineering firm with over 300 of headcount, and 73 are locals, while 60% are migrant workers. So out of these 73, actually I have about 1/3 who are above 55 years old. It is a statistic that we are monitoring very closely, and because with the tight labor market, and especially as you are aware, construction is a very traditional industry. It's not as appealing as other industries. So we are wanting our staff to work as long as possible, and of course if they are happy and willing to. So over in DLE, 11% of our locals are in this job role, site supervisors. So this is actually quite a tedious role whereby they have to walk around and monitor site installations and also manage the workers. But they actually possess a very strong knowledge, electrical knowledge, and years of knowledge on site installations, which cannot be just studied from the textbooks. So with the young generation that is coming in, what we do is a mentorship program where the junior, be it the foreman, the technicians, that attach to a senior site supervisor, where they learn on the job and they look at how installations are done. But I think more than that, it's sometimes the soft skills that is actually taught through live examples. Yeah, so they are modeled, and senior site supervisors are able to teach the young ones how do you actually manage the workers. And how do you actually manage even the client relationships on site? Yeah, so this is an important aspect for us, the mentorship between our more senior workers and also the young ones, the ones who are coming in. And for DLE, we do implement a series of age-friendly practices. Firstly, for retirement age, we have raised it to 75 in sync with our insurance maximum coverage age. And this is above the statutory age. And of course, I feel that with longer working life, this is maybe not enough. Yeah, and probably Sheila can mention more later. But for us, other than retirement age, what we do is performance management. This is another important aspect where we make sure that our senior workers, they're assessed on the similar performance evaluation criteria as the younger ones. So if the older workers, they are not at their maximum of their salary range, they are still given increments if their work performance is good. And they're still given promotions. So case in point, we recruited a senior project engineer when he was 62, and now he's 70 years old. And for the past years, he has been given increments as well. So I think this is what we want, that rewards and incentives are given fairly. And I think that is a serious consideration for our senior workers. Next, we also have job redesign. So once we had this site foreman, the foreman also actually has to inspect around the site, and he had a foot issue. So we actually redeploy him to our production area in the warehouse. So he gets to sit down at the production area and just do the punching using the machine into our brackets. So with that, he doesn't have to walk around anymore, and he doesn't have to actually quit his job. So that was, and he's been in that role for a number of years. So I think that is what we want, that they do not need to consider quitting. There are other ways where we can deploy them. And like what I mentioned in the construction sector, it is long hours and maybe the working environment is not as conducive. We do need to maximize our talent pool, our manpower as much as possible. And for the next thing we have is also medical benefits, which is important for our senior workers. So we have the usual outpatient, but we realized that for our long-serving staff who've been with us for more than 20 years, we provide them with a specialist outpatient. Because we realized that usually for medical conditions, it doesn't always result in a hospitalization or surgical. So we did provide this specialist outpatient for our staff. Sometimes they need to do a heart checkup and all that. And so this helps them to also have more medical support. Yeah. Lastly, we have been looking at what is in the environment, and for SNEF, Singapore National Employers Federation, they have just launched this guidebook, which is the Structured Career Planning Guidebook, which can be used by the industries, the employers. And so what it does is that it has a structured career planning talk with staff starting from the age of 45, which I'm actually nearing there. So it is a very structured retirement planning, which actually sometimes can be a very sensitive topic, right? But I think with that guidebook, it has helped employees have actually guidelines and also checklists on how do you do it with your staff. Yeah. So this is basically what DLE has been doing.
Wow, sounds very exciting, Sarah, and particularly challenging in the construction sector. But even then, I think we have found a middle way to continue tapping the mature workers and allowing them to contribute their value and experiences. Yeah. We would like to hear from Sheila as well.
Thank you, Albert. Firstly, let me applaud you for all the efforts that you've undertaken, specifically raising the retirement age to 75. So I start by saying that the longevity agenda has been something that's intrigued us at Prudential for a while now, and on the back of a piece of work that we did with the Economic Intelligence Unit back in 2018, primarily just to understand what was the feedback from our citizens who were active contributors to the workforce. And firstly, were they equipped and ready to retire at 62? Now, the findings are not surprising, because people want to live life with dignity, Janice, as you said, and essentially they want to be active citizens and contributors to the economy at large. And so one of the first things we did was to ask ourselves the question, why are our people retiring at the age of 62? We had a very interesting conversation about, is there a right age to retire? And because the resounding response was, no, there is no fixed age for any individual to retire. Recognizing that every individual in our workforce is an active contributor, they walk through the door every day to add value, regardless of age. So back in 2018, we then said, why don't we just remove the retirement age, providing that dignity to our employees to treat them as equals? Now, of course, performance was a very strong theme in terms of ensuring ongoing employment, but that holds true regardless of age. And what we've seen has been tremendous, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Insurance in itself is quite an entrenched, complex business, right? And the experience that our senior workforce brings to the table is resounding. And, Sarah, you spoke about mentorship, on-the-job training. That's exactly the value that our senior workers have brought on board. And the passion with which they turn up for work is commendable. I mean, I'm going to speak about Noreen, who is my poster girl whenever it comes to anyone, whenever I speak about senior workers. So Noreen is in her mid-60s. She's a lead policy writer. Now, that's actually a very specialized niche area of work. And when we removed the retirement age, I met Noreen in the corridor and she came and said, Sheila, thank you very much for doing this. And I said, why? She said, I am like a pot of honey. You haven't gotten to the bottom of how good I am and how much I have to offer in the years ahead. And in doing so, the benefits have not just been to the organization, the benefits have also been far-reaching to our younger workforce, because learning from someone who is of a different generation, someone who comes with a different perspective, has also enabled our workforce to appreciate essentially our customer base, the demographics of Singapore, and then be able to come to the table with right solutions for our customers. There is a bit about, can employers do more around this? It's a resounding yes. So because on the back of the work that we did back in 2018, we stretch ourselves a little bit more. So in 2019, we also equalized the CPF for all our employees aged 55 and above. Again, coming back to fundamental principles. We treat you as equals. You do the same job as your younger colleagues. So why should I pay you less in terms of CPF, provided you are prepared to obviously do your employee contribution as well? There is an opportunity for all employers to do more, because a most recent study that we did on the Skilled for 100, we surveyed about 200 HR professionals, and only 16% think that employers are ready and equipped to employ individuals above the retirement age, which is now upped to 63. And that poses an issue in terms of how are we going to be able to address mindsets. You spoke about mindsets, Albert. What are we going to do to start shifting mindsets of employers to see the value in the silver workforce, when all around we are all having a war for talent? So why are we not warring for this silver workforce?
Thanks, Sheila and Sarah. I think it's very, very clear that the conversation in the lead-up, in the run-up to retirement itself, is a very complex topic, sometimes sensitive, with a lot of assumptions, anxieties as well. Yeah, but what both of you have shared in a very inspired and very contextualized way is that there are always win-win approaches for both the company and the worker himself, herself, to be meaningfully plugged into the economy, to feel that their productivity is there, their experience is rich and can continue to be tapped. And you teased out one very interesting dimension. And as we move into the bolts and nuts of this conversation, let's try to extract that a little bit. While we include more of our silvering population and to sort of keep them into the workforce, both of you mentioned that there are different perspectives, they are of different generation. And I think the challenge and the opportunity for businesses is to find ways to harmonize and to synergize that richness across the intergenerational workforce. Perhaps I can invite Balash to share with us his views as well. How can companies plan and facilitate this transition to ensure that there is a good intergeneral exchange of skills, ideas, perspective? And in your opinion, what do you think mature employees value more? And how do we factor that into our general talent retention strategy?
So let me start my answer with an NTU initiative. Together with the University of Cambridge and with the help of the National Research Foundation, NTU has a huge research program entitled Center for Lifelong Learning and Individualized Cognition, or CLIC, which is one of the major research programs nowadays at NTU, focusing on understanding better the learning capacity and learning strategies of young people, young adults, older adults, and the elderly. And we all know that learning is possible at any age. Learning is not the privilege of younger people, of children or adolescents, but you can learn even in your older age. But to understand better how our younger generations, mid-generations, and elderly learn new skills is an important lesson, because based on these lessons, we can design better strategies, or we can even develop interventional approaches to improve this learning capacity more and more and more, so that even the elderly can learn new skills and they can be used in a more intense form in the different sectors of the industry. So NTU is very keen on understanding better the situation in Singapore and in developing new approaches to mobilize this fantastic learning capacity of our brain across the different age groups. So with the help of this new knowledge, we can empower people, elderly, but also younger people, to utilize their skills, their learning skills, their experiences in different ages, and combine across the age groups the strengths of the younger generations, the mid-generations, and the older generations for the benefit of society. So scientific knowledge, scientific approaches can help us understand better how we learn, how we acquire new skills, and empower us to improve this process. So what academia, what research can contribute to this, I would say, national conundrum or national project on aging is a better understanding and new strategies. So this is where I see the role of academia, of research, and I'm sure that this process, this research intensive process, will bring fruits in the future and will help Singapore in mobilizing the forces among the younger generations, the mid-generations, and older generations to build a more understanding workforce and use the talents, the skills of all the generations across the age spectrum.
Thank you, Balash. Applying that research context of designing tiered strategies or differentiated interventions to different segments of the workforce, I would like to ask Sarah and Sheila to share with us. I mean, you guys are very experienced HR practitioners with years, of lived experience and lived examples of managing and empowering and uplifting workers. What are your views and examples of these mature employees' career aspirations? What kind of priorities and wishes do they have? Perhaps I can start with Sarah first.
So from my interaction with my colleagues who are in the age bracket, many of them actually, they do not want to retire. They just want to continue to work as long as possible. They have mentioned that as long as my health can take it, I will continue to work, and as long as the company wants me. That's their exact words. So I think for us is we want to make sure that they also feel that there's this welcoming environment, that they are not, the company does not want them to leave. We do value their contribution. So I think that would align our objectives. Their priorities is that they want to work, so we would provide the employment for them. Having said that, I think we also have to make sure that we do not hold assumptions that are not true, because everyone has their own priorities and objectives. So one person may have that, but the other one might want to do something different. So I think the important part is having open communication, to have that what we mentioned earlier, the career talk with the employee, to know exactly what are you looking for and what do you want. And even though we know that maybe majority wants to work, but there may be some who actually just wants to go part-time. Yeah, so I think having that open communication is key.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, and what about you, Sheila?
Yeah, I'd like to start with what Bala shared just now about learning is not owned by the youth. And I think that really has been our premise of looking at our workforce and really looking at similarities versus differences. Maybe that's what I start off with, because that underpins our whole narrative of being an inclusive organization. So at Prudential, when we say that our value proposition to you, employee, regardless of age, our commitment is that we will help you connect, i.e. be part of an organization that is inclusive, allows you to collaborate and work with people across hierarchy, grade, divisions, etc., and be innovative in the process. We are committed to your growth, so grow being the second proposition. Regardless, again, of your age, we are there to support you in your career journey that you so choose to walk the path. And finally, succeed. And it's never too late to be successful in something you so choose to do. So that's our value proposition to our employees. And if we really now apply that to what we've brought about in terms of, I guess, creating that inclusive view of our workforce, this is an open invitation for everyone to come to our office. It is quite a happening office, is what I'd say. It's open. The CEO does not have a workstation. You sit next to anyone of any age, any gender, any division, and you work collaboratively towards a desired goal and outcome for our customers. Post-COVID, we've now extended our workplace to also approve anywhere. So you can actually work from anywhere. It could be, so we've got an arrangement with an external provider. Teams, individuals can meet their colleagues for meetings, discussions, engagement, which is probably at their neighborhood. One where it allows and enables our workforce not just to work and be productive, but also attend to everything else that matters in their life. So if one of our senior workers happens to have to, go for a medical as their younger colleagues, and there happens to be a Pru anywhere, please go use it. So we are quite pleased with that, and it's obviously people are very happy with that. When we speak about growth, we've been working quite extensively with the Institute of Banking and Finance over the last couple of years, really looking at how we redesign jobs to be future ready against skills that are important. And in doing so, as I speak, a fifth of our organization is going through a chartered learning path, which enables them to, be ready for the new world and be ready to embrace new skills and take on new roles, more importantly. Underpinning all of that is our commitment to all our people, regardless of age. Your job may disappear, you don't have to disappear. And in doing that, I said a fifth of our organization. Included in that is about 26 of our, what we call our silver surfers, who have signed up to be part of this journey. And I must say the energy with which the silver workforce has come forward to embrace this path has been quite phenomenal. There were some challenges with a certain segment, but being able to engage them in conversation and understanding their pain points, but more importantly, addressing their concerns and accompanying them in that journey is part of our growth commitment. And then succeeding, obviously, is taking on those accountabilities, being able to add value and contribute in what matters. So I spoke about our silver surfers. We invite our silver surfers to policy discussions because it's quite important that they are seen and they feel like they are advocates and representatives of their population, their colleagues. And by doing so and including them in key policy decisions, I have a firm belief that a lot of them will be with us for many years to come.
Thank you, Sheila and Sarah. So as we move into the final segment of our discussion, let's switch gears a little bit, put on our corporate leader's hat, and to really think about, after understanding the potential and all the opportunities that the businesses can pursue in including and integrating the silvering workforce, what would you think are some of the areas of need that businesses will require more support in to help them better identify and better tap into both the silver workforce as well as the silver economy? Yeah, perhaps we can invite all our panelists to share their thoughts, beginning with Janice, Sheila, and Sarah.
Sure, thank you. Well, I think the new silver economy presents a lot of opportunities and new roles that people will play in this new economy. So, for example, companies are now like the second family for them, and ever more than before. We went through a period during economic growth where a lot of younger people would think, I have to job hop every few years in order to get ahead. But I think now the conversation is going back to staying in one organization that helps me look after my whole of life is more important, building that community with that organization. And then it stems across younger people, older people, across multi-generations. And I think the innovation we need to see is how can we see more community engagement opportunities within the corporation? How can we help people in the organization see that the cheapest way to look after your health as you grow older is prevention? Yeah, exercise, it's medicine. And you'll save money for the company, you'll save money for yourselves. But to create this culture, so the company has this massive role ahead. How can we build that professional workforce, at the same time inspire them to stay healthy, be engaged with the community like a family? And then also the last part is how can we successfully engage people across generations? Today, many companies are building a pillar that looks at the aging population, different innovations and ideas. And instead of going out there to a research company, to an aging innovation lab, you can actually tap on the older people in your workforce to look at ideas that you could help self-generate. So in doing so, you create this very vibrant ecosystem across generations, across different departments. And together, you are actually supporting a new population change, a new mindset where you can age in this new environment to be healthier and stronger.
I like your analogy of an ecosystem kind of stuff, right? And it's how do you create that within the organization? And I think as employers, as corporates, we've got to start looking at how do we engage people through their life cycle, right? And it's just not about a single role job. It is about what could be next. Yeah. It could be what can you do as an extension to the community, to your customers, etc. So again, just relating this to an example that we have a very vibrant internal mobility culture. Every year, 10% of our workforce take on a new job. And you do that by telling people that you don't have to leave my organization to find another job. I'm giving you another job within the organization. And that narrative can continue through the life cycle of the individual as well. it does require very deliberate thinking and planning in terms of how you are going to be able to facilitate this and have those challenging internal conversations about thinking longer term than short term. And it is also very important to have the right tone from the top in terms of making this happen. And as an extension about corporates and what we do for the community, I think how can we also be able to influence fellow corporates in terms of thinking through this longevity agenda, I think is an important consideration as well.
For me, probably I'll touch on the practical aspect of businesses. It always boils down to dollar and cents. And in budget 2022, there's mention of the increase in CPF rates for the senior workers that will happen from 1st January 2023. The government has provided the CPF transition offset that would help with the increase in the CPF contribution from the company. But I think one thing that for the corporates, we do appreciate what the government has provided, but it is something that the corporates would have to get used to, which is, it will become manpower cost, increase in manpower cost. And I think this is something that corporates need to realize that in a tight labor market, we will have to just be used to that and be ready to accept that this is how it would be. And let's try to see how we can increase productivity gains instead. While we look at one side, we see how we can also increase that. So for coming from a SME, it's always about limited resources, limited budget. So for us, we are always looking out for grants. So there's also a senior worker adopter grant that we took up, we applied, and so that helps progressive companies who actually raise their retirement age and re-employment age. So that's something that corporates can look at. And also when we talk about wellness, we want to have a lot of health programs. But for SME, it's like, I have limited budget. How do I do it? And for us, we are always looking out for collaborations, I call it. So we partner with our insurance companies. So they provide the complimentary health screenings. We also partner with banks who wants to have their credit card roadshows. So I say, come to our company, you provide food, provide a health talk. It's like there are ways that we can do it. And previously, we also we applied for the Health Promotion Board grant, where we roll out a series of exercise programs and also included a Tai Chi. So for the older ones, they may not want to do rock climbing or cycling, but they just want to okay, Tai Chi is something that I can do. At least I'm moving. But having said that, I think we also have to note that even for rock climbing, I had a late 50s, a manager in her late 50s. She managed to climb all the way to the top of the rock wall. So I think the thing is that we also cannot be presumptuous. Sometimes the older ones, they're healthier than the younger ones. I'm not sure if you realize, but there are also those in their 30s who have high blood cholesterol. And I think it's something that we do need to know that sometimes in our older workforce, they are actually also in a good health condition, and they can inspire the younger ones. So I think in terms of that, for corporates, it's really looking out on how we can actually partner with others, and so to create even more programs. Currently, we are looking at this grant called Total Workplace Safety and Health. So this is actually rolled out by WSH Council, and it actually integrates safety, occupational health, and also the individual physical health and mental health of the worker. So it actually is a very holistic approach, which we hope that it will benefit our staff.
Thank you, ladies. I think this conversation really is a microcosm and a true reflection of Singapore's ever-evolving and dynamic economy. Janice brought out this big question: what's next? There's always new roles emerging. And Sheila talks about that intentionality in the leadership setting the tone, in the corporate being the unit of change to institutionalize certain arrangements that will bring the workers on board. And Sarah has given us a quick 101 on policy design, ways to incentivize companies to do well and do good. And I think to our audience, this really shows that rich diversity and ample opportunities for every one of us in different professions and different fields to play a part to advance this longevity agenda. It could be the policy designers and makers who are thinking about innovative approaches to, instead of looking at it as a limitation on our factor of production, but as the next phase that will propel Singapore's growth. It could be the product designer. It could even be the interior designer. And as I hear from Sheila, the CEO doesn't get an office. So you better think about how you hot desk your office space in a conducive way. Yes. Yeah. So all these are very, very exciting opportunities, and I hope that our audience will be able to take these ideas 2 steps, 3 steps, 5 steps ahead to think about the new products. Yeah.
So thank you, Albert. This is a fantastic summary of the discussion until now. And from the academic point of view, as the moderator of this module on aging, we would like to tell to our students that they have a fantastic possibility here. They can design new policy documents, they can design new guidelines, new concepts for the government, for society, for companies about the silver economy's potentials. And they can even create new spin-offs, new companies. So allow me to ask your advice. What would you tell to our students, our university freshmen, first and second year students, regarding the possibilities? What would be your advice regarding a new SME, regarding a new spin-off, regarding a new policy document, a new guideline for the government or healthcare providers? Can I ask your advice, your insights for our students?
So maybe I'll start first. So I started 2 companies, Aging Asia as well as Aspire 55. Aspire 55 is a wellness community that mimics life in a retirement village, but offered in a virtual environment where there's virtually no walls, so it doesn't limit you to be online or offline. You create spaces in the community, existing spaces, and you then help people create social connections and communities. And there's a lot of ideas in the aging space, and if you just look around you, look around the people you're with, because all of us have someone older that is aging, and the best test bed to look at what products we need for the aging population is to look around your own family members. And I think innovation comes from there. And think about how you want to change the future. In the past, we always think about GDP when we talk about economy. But how about silver GDP, economic contributions of people aged over 60? How can we help more older people to be looking at the future after the age of 60 as an age of golden opportunity for both engaging their current companies, but perhaps help them to become silver entrepreneurs, having silver entrepreneurs venture funds. So, I think there's all these areas here. And if we want people to age well and live well and to work happily, what are the automation possibilities? How can we use technology to enable older people to work longer in the jobs? So yes, there's going to be job redesign, but there's also going to be a lot of creation of innovative technology products. And these products might help a person who is getting older, having some physical weakness, to continue to lift heavy things. And as we can see from examples in Japan, there's all these robotic technologies. They're helping to support the workforce, not just for their internal workforce, but also for export internationally. So I think there's all these ideas coming out, and I hope that more students will be inspired to think creatively about how they want to, change the way people are living in future.
I'll just add a thought. So at Prudential, we are big fans of Andrew Scott's work around living to 100. And in that, I think, and it's a concept many of you are familiar with, many of us grew up in an era where you study, you work, you retire. And essentially that entire path is being challenged today, as we are going through life. And as students who are probably at the first stage of this, what I'd like to say is the silver workforce are actually not that different from you, right? In that they also want to be able to be active contributors, active decision makers, and ideators in itself. So in anything that you do, the question is how do you try to look for similarities in the first instance, but where there are differences, and there are differences in terms of learning patterns or maybe priorities, how do you then find a way to draw people from a traditional mold of thinking through those 3 life stages and then be able to, I guess, come with the same outcome that you could if you were, if they were your age as well. So I think break that mold, find solutions that actually tickle you because it will tickle the senior workforce. And more importantly, it's going to, I guess, create that level of inclusivity and diminish unconscious bias as well.
I think first and foremost, it is important that we keep preconceived notion out of the way. I think sometimes, like what I mentioned earlier, there may be older workers who are actually healthier. There may be older workers who are actually more adventurous. So we never know until we actually speak to them. So I think having that open and honest environment for communication is key. And so that can start with like what Janice mentioned, speak to your family members who are in that age bracket and to understand also what are their aspirations, what would they like to do, and what would actually help them to work longer. So I think all these starts with just having a conversation in transparency.
Well, thank you, ladies. I have to be very honest to admit that I have nothing further to add to those very, very rich thoughts. But I want to give one final comment before handing it back to Balash for his closing, that the Singapore Business Federation is really privileged to have in our company these progressive corporates who will be supporting our transition to this silvering economy and workforce. And as the Singapore's Apex Business Chamber, we also want to work very closely with both businesses as well as academic institutions and research institutions to find ways to get these innovative research products and solutions to the market. On one hand, to help companies seize new growth opportunities, and at the same time, keep our silvering workforce happy, keep them engaged, and together, I think, as a small country, there's so much richness and so much opportunities for us to come together, to work together. So thank you very much. And I hand the time back to Balash for the closing.
First of all, allow me to express my thanks to Albert for organizing this fantastic panel, and of course to Sarah, Sheila, and Janice for participating in this panel. Dear students, I would like to conclude this fantastic discussion with the following. I hope you understand that the silvering economy of Singapore, which is a major, major issue in the coming years, is not something which should be regarded as, oh, so sad, we are all getting older, we will die, and what to do about it. But it's a great opportunity for the whole society, but also for you students to come up with creative ideas which can be translated from the idea level to the realization level. You can translate a concept, an idea, a scientific thought, a technical development into a product, into a company, into a spin-off, a guideline, a know-how, a recommendation for the government or for users, including the elderly. So in the classroom practice following this lecture, you will have information regarding the Singapore Business Federation and the companies represented during this panel discussion. And I recommend that you contact them. I hope you agree that our students will contact you.
Feel free to.
Yeah. Thank you so much. and try to come up with your ideas and find a partner and discuss with this partner your ideas and come up with great ideas which can be realized in your near future. While you are during a university curriculum a student, but already a spin-off company owner. This is the real purpose, the real goal of this course, and the real meaningful final objective of this discussion. If you can create something which will be sooner or later a reality, we would be the happiest on earth. Thank you one more time for this fantastic discussion. And all dear students, please don't forget to contact the ladies and the gentlemen during the coming weeks before you finish this course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.